last time.
She's an Eastie though. She's from the eastern suburbs.
That part of town, and has an affinity having run there before. Look, Anthony Albanese's also made quite a few visits to the seat. So
right, so I think it's working now.
He's playing down publicly Labor's chances of snaring this seat, but yes, he'd love to keep some pressure on Peter.
Look, Labor is setting this up, David, as a test on Peter Dutton's leadership. Now, of course, Peter Dutton is really in a difficult situation after the Morrison government's loss. The Liberal Party has been searching for its identity, whether it be...
okay, so the stream should be live.
Peter Dutton says he wants to capture territory.
Right, hopefully the stream is live and should be visible now.
Now, Peter Dutton
is the stream visible?
to increase that margin tonight. That would be the
Rightio, so it looks like everything is working.
The Liberal Party, haven't they? Now they're discussing it as a win's a win. So even if it's a tighter margin and he wins by fewer votes and they have whittled down that margin, the Liberal Party will claim it as a win and as a success. But that's a pretty low benchmark.
Yeah, Anthony Albanese's opposition leader in the Monero by-election did the same. A win's a win. We just need to get over the line here. Typically you do get swings.
Alrighty-o. Alright. Sorry guys about the late start. I had a few issues that I had to sort out, but hopefully we should be all good.
Who's going to be bringing us all the results and telling us what it all means as they come in. Anthony, just tell us from your perspective a bit more about this seat and what to look for tonight.
Aston, well, it's just an inner city seat, an outer eastern suburb seat. I would be very surprised if Labor won the seat. It's just not the sort of seat they normally win, and didn't think you were going to ask me that. I
know what you wanted us to ask you, so let's...
It says it on the screen, that was my bad. It says New South Wales
Let's
votes
go backwards.
Okay.
There's just been an election last weekend. David's always hanging out on ABC studios on a Saturday night in New South Wales. But Anthony, it looks like the New South Wales government the new government, the Minns government, won't be governing in majority. Is that right?
That's right. Well, David was with us last Saturday night, and
it's been a long week.
Obviously, we're going to have to cover the New South Wales election first, obviously. Presume you guys probably saw me and the others cover this on Saturday on Aussie's Elects channel. Obviously, I was wrong. I predicted a majority Labor government and why it looked like that on the night. Unfortunately, things turned around, and unfortunately, it looks like Labor's going to be in the minority, which kind of... I guess it kind of sucks because I got it wrong. Remember, I need to not be partisan in these live streams. So I'll turn the vote back up to me.
Only one seat remains in doubt now. It's Jordan Lane. This is Victor Dominello's seat of Ryde. On the swing at the moment, Labor has been ahead all week on the postal votes today. The Liberals have just moved into the front, and some of the Liberals are very confident they're going to hold the seat. The impact of all that is if we come and have a look at the chamber, with one seat left to fill in, the Labor Party's on 45. Now, when I did these numbers last Sunday morning, Labor was on 45 and ahead in another 4 or 5 seats. They've dropped behind in every seat they were ahead in last Saturday night. They've only ended up with 45, 2 seats sort of majority. The coalition's on 35, may reach 36. The important thing is there is 12 on the cross.
Right, since we're obviously here for the Aston By-Election, I'm going to mute that for a bit and just talk a bit. So... obviously normally I wouldn't live stream a by-election as they're not usually that major of a event. Obviously it's only just one seat being up for grabs today, but the reason why is there's obviously a very high chance that Labor can win this. I'm not saying it's above 50%, I'd say it's below 50%. We're talking about the election again, but if they do win, this will be the first time in 100 years that a party has won from a seat from the opposition as a government.
Going to be able to increase that margin tonight?
Look, they may well. I mean, governments don't normally get rewarded at by-elections. I remember that 3 years ago, the Eden Monero by-election was painted as a huge test for Labor to hold on to that seat. There was no swing, and that was at a time when the Morrison government was very popular in the early days of COVID. I would be surprised if there can be a similar swing here. Now, there's some... the Liberals have gone to an effort to get a good candidate in Michelle Campbell, and I think I've got the name, Rasheen Campbell.
Rasheen Campbell.
Is she a good candidate? Like, I don't know what people think about her as a candidate.
Got most of the swing at the general election. The swing.
I think I'll just leave it there. Is that a good enough volume for you guys? Feel free to just tell me like what the like. Do you want me to keep switching between changing the volume, or do you want to leave them at a quiet volume and just have me talk over them?
Certainly not federal governments. It's a long time since we've seen that happen. So, I mean, the Hawke government was immensely popular in 1983 and 84 and couldn't win any of the by-elections in their era. The Rudd government was popular in his first year and didn't win any by-elections. So I'd imagine something similar here. But, I mean, if it doesn't work out that way, does the swing to Labor, or, you know, goodness sakes, if Labor actually wins, is bad news for the coalition. But I think it'll be a while to settle in. This is classic mortgage belt seat. Not so much mortgage.
By the way, is the audio sounding good to you guys? Hopefully.
Family type seats. It's the sort of seat that Robert Menzies was talking.
Haven't seen any comments yet, so maybe everyone watching the stream though it's a bit quiet.
Middle class seat that you expect the Liberal parties have no difficulty holding normally. It is changing as a lot of Sydney's and Melbourne suburbs are changing. But you would expect that this should be going with the Liberal Party.
And just to explain what happened in May in Aston, the Liberals did cop a big primary vote swing against them, more than 11%, 11.6%. But that didn't all go, in fact, most of it didn't go to Labor. It really sprayed around a lot of the other candidates running, and those smaller parties, One Nation,
Of course, they're bringing that, but Labor didn't win the Labor didn't win the first preferences. That's why we live in a preferential system, David Spears. It lets you pass your preferences.
I think there was like 10 or 12% with small right-wing parties at the last general election. They're not there this time. There's one independent who's a former Liberal Democrat standing. I don't think she's going to attract anything like the vote those other One Nation and the United Australia Party got last May. So it's a question of where those votes go to. At the last election, 65% of the preferences from those groups went to the coalition and got them over the line. If they split in the same level and have no net effect, if most of them go back to the Liberal Party, it will buttress the Liberal first preference vote. So that's one of the things to watch for.
Okay.
And Anthony, how quickly
So
will we
we haven't
know
got
the
any
outcome?
results
Because there are
yet.
actually not that many candidates. Some Liberal sources told me today they don't expect it to take that long because the preferences won't take a long time to actually work out. Is that the case?
Yeah, there's only 5 candidates. You know, if you've only got 5 candidates, it's easy to put them into piles.
I wonder if they've got like more people counting this election, because that would definitely help increase the count. The count speed if there's like a lot more like staff members on this election, because obviously it's only one electorate in this case as opposed to 151 as there are in obviously a federal election.
A third of the voters applied for it. There was a pre-poll, something like 34,000 pre-polls. So those pre-polls will be counted tonight, not the postals. So then maybe we get all the polling places early, and then we get a bit of a wait, because there's really only 3 pre-poll centres, and they're between 8 and 13,000 each.
Anthony Green, we'll come back to you when you get some first results there. I want to go to Leanne Wong. She's over at the Liberal Party function tonight.
Right, so I'm going to quickly mute that for a bit because I want to actually show. So you guys might be interested to know about the only other election, or the previous by-election in which the government picked up the seat from the opposition, and that's this one here, the 1920 Kalgoorlie by-election. So this is a by-election, obviously it had the 920. So if you look at the background here, basically it was around the war on the Irish and stuff by the British, and obviously a man attacked the British people in Ireland and the British Empire as a whole. Basically, to be honest, it sounds pretty reasonable, but then obviously Billy Hughes, loving to play on Irish resentment by the majority of the British population at the time, voted to expel him, and then used general that sentiment against the Irish to win the seat in quite a shady format. Unfortunately, this is not a good stain. As I was saying, it's a bit of a dodgy by-election, if I say so myself. But yeah, so this is currently the only time in Australian history in which the government has won a seat from the opposition in a by-election. Obviously, it's happened on state level and territory level. I believe there was a by-election in the NT, Northern Territory, about a year or two ago, in which the government picked up a seat from the opposition. So it has happened on the state level. It just hasn't happened on the federal level since this 1920 election. So let's go back to the live coverage and see how it's going.
Election that people are instead voting for local candidates.
Which not about changing government. So what does that suggest to you? That he's telling voters, look, it's not about putting me into the lodge necessarily, and it's not. It's about electing me.
He's right, but it is just about taking the temperature down in the electorate too, so that there's not sort of...
Like Albanese.
Yeah. There's no sense of binary, this is a choice about Albanese, and he is right.
A question to the chat: do you actually think that Dutton putting himself in this campaign is actually going to be a negative? Because, like, if I was Dutton, I'd potentially want to stay away from this. Like, I think putting himself in this campaign has actually been a bad mistake, but I'm not sure what you guys think. Do you think him putting himself here has been a bad mistake?
Let's explain to you why that's relevant. Look, the Chinese community had a huge backlash to the Morrison government on the back of some pretty hairy-chested language about China in the former government. Now, this will also be really interesting to watch tonight to see whether they've managed to repair some of that. And Peter Dutton has been really... I think it's been a different Peter Dutton, wouldn't you say?
I'll tell you, give you a good example.
Yeah.
Right? Dan Andrews, the Victorian Premier this week, has gone to China. There's been a lot of coverage of this. You might have seen it. Media weren't taken along and so on. Anyway, Peter Dutton was asked yesterday and again today, what do you think about Dan Andrews going to China? He didn't bite. Didn't bite at all. He immediately went into a riff about the importance of the Chinese community in Australia, great Australians, and so on. Didn't offer criticism of Dan Andrews at all.
Two other issues which I think are relevant to the way he's constructed
So,
the by-election.
while we wait,
period.
I'll pause this for a bit. So while we wait for the results to come through, obviously I think some of you guys might have seen this week that Sormon finally got over 1,000 subscribers. So I was very thankful for you guys. That's obviously a big moment in the channel. Obviously I've been aiming for 1,000 subscribers for a while. I kind of wish I got there a bit sooner, but unfortunately, things happen. Obviously, I'm covering a pretty niche topic here with Australian politics. There's only a few... Australia is not really a country that's very passionate about its politics, so it's understandable that obviously there's not a huge number of people who would find a channel like mine's interesting. But either way, I'm so glad that I've finally obviously hit that 1,000 number. In fact, especially here, as a bit of a thing, I decided to do a little bit of a trip to Parliament House the other day. I've actually never, even though I obviously live in Adelaide, I've never actually done the tour of the South Australian Parliament. So here's me visiting, doing the actual parliamentary tour. So if you guys are ever interested to see what the inside of the South Australian Parliament House looks like, here it is. So this is me on my tour. You can see that I am a brilliant photographer and not someone who's just waving around my phone camera like a madman. Obviously that's what the Parliament House was meant to look like. That's obviously our tour guide. This is us. We're in the assembly area. This is me trying to film one of the phone booths that they would have used back in the day, but it was a bit dark, unfortunately. So I was thinking, okay, so this is the old room that they used to do. So there's a building. The old Parliament House is actually located right next door to the new Parliament House. So we actually quickly went into the old Parliament House to check things out. So yeah, this is the building as it looks. This is where they used to hold Parliament for the. So I think it was between 1860 to 1890. I think it was housed here before they moved into the newer one in the 1890s. Obviously, you can see the nice tiled floor here. Tour guide was actually quite nice, and there's some busts of some famous premiers. Obviously, here's just what you want to see, guys. This is the lower house. So this is where they have the assembly meets. Obviously, there's Thomas Playford up on the portrait there. There's the speaker's chair. Well, I am such a terrible photographer. I'm just waving the camera around like a madman here. Obviously, yep. Oh, this is Steve Reginas. I didn't actually video Peter Malinaus because but you can sort of see it would have been over there. Oops, nope. Next video. Yeah, I was thinking about compiling this into a proper video, but I don't think it worked out very well. But here's a cool thing. If you can check out here, the Parliament House was actually built in 2 stages. So it was built this half first, and then it was sort of mirrored on the other side about 50 years later. It was an interesting thing. And here you can also see the what the Parliament House was meant to look like before budget cuts. Obviously, I think the South Australian Parliament is quite a pretty Parliament building, but definitely could have looked a lot more impressive. Obviously, here's the upper house, the Legislative Council, So I remember I didn't actually sit down in any of these chairs, but I remember when I sat down in them when I was a kid, these were like super comfy seats. No wonder these guys fall asleep while they're legislating. I want to fall asleep in those chairs. And I think we're coming to that was the end of the video. So yeah, hope you enjoyed my little tour of Parliament. Oh, we finally got some chats. So we got some people saying, we got EMC Shady says, I joined this week, lots of work put into the channel, but yes, unfortunately it's pretty niche. Yeah, thank you. Well, look, I'm just glad you joined me today. And we also have you saying, saying I found your channel and I was trying to learn about the crazy Latham election 2004. Yeah, I'm not sure I'd say the Latham election was a particular crazy one. Okay, subs, let's go. You're not meant to tell people that I can now monetize my videos. That's not something. Okay, obviously they've changed into some other topics now, because obviously we're not going to really see any results soon. Like, I can switch over to the actual seat count, but as you can see, updated yesterday, because that's when they actually put this all together. Obviously we got no counts in yet. I would not expect the first results until at least 6:30 Victorian time. So we'll probably just sit here and wait a bit for the results to come through. We thinking the independents will do any good? Like, do you think the Greens will do well? Like, I might just quickly go. Let's quickly just check the Aston. Okay, so here's the results from the federal election. So it's interesting, like, the Liberals actually won on the first preferences in 2019. That's an 11% swing. That's huge. It's like it was a massive swing against the party. And obviously Labour did gain, but not by much. But the Greens also really good. So it's about a 5% gain between the two major left-wing parties. Obviously, Liberals probably had a lot of lost votes thanks to One Nation and the United Australia Party. It'll be interesting to see where, obviously, I don't think they're running in this one. No, there isn't anyone else. So obviously, these two will see their votes drop. And the question is, will they go back to Liberal or will they go to Labour or the Greens? Obviously, we're seeing Fusion, they're more of a left-wing party, so it'll be interesting to see where they go. I don't think Fusion's going to do very well. I don't know much about this independent, which is a... So we've got Nalem saying no UAP and One Nation this time around will help the Liberals could see the get through. I don't know, so let's look at that again here. So we got a total of what, 9.2? I could see it going to the Liberals. I still think the Liberals are going to get hit, because I think the other thing I saw, see if I can bring it up. It's polling Australia. Here we go. This is the thing I found quite interesting, and I'm not sure how accurate this is. Yeah, so Victoria, check this out. So this is the current polling in Victoria at the moment for the next federal election. Almost 60% to Labor. And this is from the federal election. See, like, Liberals down 4%, Labor up 10%. And even then, look, they're supposed to be getting almost close to 40%. Now, obviously, these polls could be biased. Obviously, these are state polls, so they have got very small sample sizes. But if this polling is remotely true, like, ignore the federal polling. This polling shows that Labor is going to win the seat easily, as long as it's obviously stable. This obviously could just be in safe Labor seats or other seats and not Aston. But it'll be interesting to see if whether or not any of this comes across. Okay, here we go. So you're saying this independent, Mayor Tessa, claims to be a libertarian, leaning right-wing populist, so might... Okay. Oh, she could possibly pick up the One Nation and UAP vote, a bit of them, maybe. I think I'm going to predict either her or Fusion's going to come last. I'm going to guess that Fusion's going to come last, just because their candidate seems very... I don't really want to use the word woke, because that word is so misused in current society, but I really don't think they're the sort of candidate that will resonate here. They probably will resonate in inner city seats, not here in the outer suburbs. My prediction is a modest swing to Labor, but not enough to win the seat. Definitely in a position to pick it up for the next federal election. So yeah, I was initially thinking that too, but I'm getting more and more confident. As you see, if they're covering the election again, no, they're just doing Ukraine stuff. I am getting more and more confident that they will win the seat. I'm not going to say it's 50%. I'm about, let's say 50-50. I'm 50% sure they're going to win this election, this by-election. Obviously, if this was a federal election, I think they'd win Aston. Like, I generally think they'd actually win Deakin and Menzies as well. The only reason I think it's not is just because in by-elections people like to vote against the government. It's just common that people will tend to vote against the government in by-elections and then go and ahhing and do some double thinking when it comes to the actual election, because it's very, people like to vote against the government, but when they realise that voting against the government will put another government in, they suddenly double guess themselves, and that's why I think you get things like the 2019 election upset. The demographics of the seat make it a strong Liberal seat, though. Not a high amount of renters or public sector workers. If Liberals lose Aston, they're in huge deal of trouble. Of course, if they lose Aston, they're in huge deal of trouble because Aston's their safest seat in Melbourne. So if they lose here, that means Menzies and Deakin are basically underwater. Like, going into the next election, they will be predicted to be won by the Labor Party. But I'm just saying, one thing I found interesting, so it's obviously, you guys know I'm doing my electorates in short series. One of the things I found quite interesting about the electorates in shorts is, the fact that I'm doing Bradfield at the moment in Sydney, and you'll be surprised to see, see if I can go, seat of Bradfield. So this is obviously the next lecture I'll be covering soon, so you'll see this one on Monday. But look at the results here, right? Ignoring obviously an independent came second place here, Labor got 43.5% of the vote. Labor has never got 40% of the vote in Bradfield. If you look at the history of this seat, see, look here, right? 33, 28, 29, 31, 36. They have never come close to winning this seat. But they got 43.5 in the most recent election. That's a sign that these outer suburban seats of, middle class earners and stuff, it's possible that just they can't stomach the Liberals' conservatism, and that's why they're potentially voting to Labor. I think they're covering the election again. So we're back. Okay, so they're not actually covering at the moment. They're just doing some general news. Apparently, Sky News I think has wall-to-wall coverage, but obviously I don't have access to Sky News, and nor am I going to pay them for it. We've got a few more comments. Hello Sormon, I recently found your channel and have been liking to look into all the Australian elections. Keep up the good work. Yep, well, I would keep up the good work, but unfortunately there's no more federal elections to cover until the 2025 election. I know people are pushing me for state elections, and I will say that I am potentially thinking of doing some state elections. Maybe I'll do a few, but I've got a few ideas. But if you want to talk to more about that, stay tuned to my Patreon, because I'll be possibly putting up some polls there for patrons to look at on determining what some of my new series will be, because obviously the Prime Ministers in the Spotlight series is slowly coming to an end. So, actually it has come to an end. It will be to an end because the Morrison video is done. And if you actually are a patron right now, you can actually go onto Patreon and watch the Morrison video right now. Otherwise, the rest of you will be able to see it on Monday when I make it go public. So I hope you guys will enjoy watching that when it comes out. also stay tuned to the Bradfield episode. And oh yes, I'm also going to have to update the Aston video, obviously for this by-election. So hope you guys are excited for those. Oh, it's just new past the sports section. Oh, sorry. Yeah, you must be ahead of me. You must be on a different thing. I could just check to see if the Aston by-election is. Let me just. Is the Aston getting coverage like elsewhere, like live on someone else's channel? Yeah, I don't seem to have any predictions on how the LNP will react and change their lead, change if they lose Aston. Well, if it's a definitive loss, it's going to be really hard for Dutton to justify his position. Like, the best I can see them doing is possibly saying Victoria's a lost cause, and like, look at me, I'll win Tasmania, I'll win WA, and I'll win New South Wales. But like, I don't know, like, if Dutton is literally that ballsy. Like, Sky News will probably tell him to stay on. Well, actually, maybe they're not. They're actually mentioning themselves that they might think. But yeah, like, I would say more than likely Dutton would resign if he loses this by-election. Like, it would be the biggest embarrassment ever if he loses. Dutton will get kicked out for sure. That's the only thing they can say. But they will not lose Aston. This is certain. I don't think it's certain that they'll hold Aston. Who would replace Dutton, though? It's a difficult question. Like, potentially a moderate, but the Liberals just don't have moderates at the moment. Like, their moderate faction is tiny. Do you want to chat? Do you have any ideas of who could be good alternatives? I know they've been questioned about putting a woman in. Who's that woman that I think is the deputy leader at the moment? Is it Karen Andrews or something? She could possibly be it. Sky News wants Matt Canavan to lead the coalition. Well, the problem with him and Simon Birmingham is they're both in the Senate. Like, it's difficult for a Senate to lead. They have to first of all leave the House and then run for a lower house seat. And I just, if they lose Aston, they might not really want to have any more people resigning out of seats to open them up. Unless they make Barnaby Joyce. Why would they make Barnaby Joyce lead for the coalition? To be honest, there is a possibility I could see like Scott Morrison, but like, it's widely considered that he was the reason they lost the last election. Even if he did win 2019, I don't think Scott Morrison is a good choice. To be honest, they'd probably be better off just going with some small face that people just don't know, like someone small, and that way, you know, they won't pick up the attention. Do what Albo did in 2022 and be the small target. It's probably the smartest option. The best corgi says I could see Susan Lay running. Yeah, I could see Susan Lay would probably be a good option, a decent option. Again, the coalition obviously is really low on talent at the moment. Obviously, I'd want Bridget Archer, but like, I doubt she would run. EMC Shady said, yeah, Birmingham would be that. Yeah, I think Simon Birmingham would make a good leader, but again, he's in the Senate, and like, also, if I'm not mistaken, Simon Birmingham lives in the west of Adelaide along with me, and the west of Adelaide is massive Labor territory, so his only choice would be to win Sturt. But Sturt, like Aston, is also on a knife's edge. Like, I don't think any Liberal wants to risk running in Sturt and losing. Do you want to turn the volume up for this and just watch a bit of the video, or do you want to keep talking? Who's the inanimate carbon rod? Is that meant to be David Spears or something? Birmingham would suffer the SA curse because no promises come from SA. I will admit, if Birmingham became Prime Minister, that would probably be one of the biggest reasons to get me to vote Liberal, like just to get a South Australian Prime Minister. It is tempting. We'll turn the volume up a little bit if that's alright with you guys. Obviously, normally I have a second screen with me so I can check the state of the stream while while watching the video, but unfortunately I've only got my one screen today because I couldn't get my second screen. So I can't really check the stream stakes. I don't really want to bring up technical information on the screen while we're talking. You know, if Beazley had won in 2000 or 98 or 2001, he would have been the second WA Prime Minister. But unfortunately, I always feel sorry for Beazley. He seemed like such a nice guy. It sucked he never became Prime Minister. He would have been great. West Saxon says, yeah, Curtin was Victorian and moved to Western Australia, but in some respects, Bob Hawke was a South Australian, moved to Victoria. So some people say South Australian, Bob Hawke is South Australian, like... We make a big deal about his border town home. Like, if you ever drive past border town, there's always big signs going, come here to see the home of Bob Hawke. Alright, have we got any results yet? Let me just quickly refresh this and see what we get. And it looks like we've still got nothing coming through at the moment. Beazley would have been one of the best gone too soon. I wouldn't say he's gone too soon. He hanged around for a while. He just didn't get a chance to stay a leader. But like, he obviously got to become governor of Western Australia, which I think is a big achievement in its own right. I think so. Obviously, 1998 it was rigged. Let's just watch these two guys. Do you think the ABC will replace David Spears in the next few years? Because like, how did he become the political commentator? In some good news, I heard that, I think it was that Laura Tingle got appointed to the ABC board. She's good, so I'm hoping she'll be able to improve the ABC. I'm guessing in the 65-cent chance of Campbell. Yeah, I can agree with you on 8-bit there. I don't think it's 100%. I don't think it's a certainty they're going to win. I think Labor has a good chance here. Just shows more ethnic groups. Yeah, how about I just Google search images of anti-Greek nation? No, that's a terrible idea. You're not going to find images you want to see. Alright, so half an hour has passed. I'm thinking about doing this for about 2 hours, guys, because I've got something on tonight that I've got to run off to at about 7:30. So you've got me, well, 7:30 South Australian time, 8 o'clock Eastern Australian time. So you've got me for about another hour and a half before I have to run away. So speaking of the cost of living, as he's mentioning cost of living, do you guys think that like Labor has tackled cost of living? Do you think, like, when people say cost of living is a problem, do you think that's benefiting the Labor Party or do you think it's benefiting the Liberal Party? What lunatic decided on half an hour time sense? You know what's so stupid, West Saxon, is the fact that we're actually closer in Adelaide to being an hour out. Like, we're closer to being an hour out than half an hour out. We chose half an hour to be closer with the eastern states. But at that point, you may as well just say stuff it and just make ourselves have an Eastern Standard Time. Generally, I'm in favour of moving us to a full hour out and keeping us, hour. Unfortunately, I'm in the minority there. I think it's something like 8% of South Australians think we should be an hour out. Something like 50 or 60% thinks we should be where we are right now, and only like 28 or 22%, 32% or something thinks we should be with the Eastern Standard Time. So it's kind of annoying. I'm like in the minority there, the 8% who thinks we should be a full hour out, just to make it more simple and stop these stupid half an hour things. It put us in line with Japan, which which I'd like, because I obviously consume a lot of Japanese stuff. Labor might win. I think you factor in the state results, it gets better for them. AUKUS and Dan Andrews' China shit might get AUKUS will not negatively affect Labor here. I don't think so. I don't think these people are angry about AUKUS. But Dan's trip would. I would say yes, possibly. But again, would a state issue affect a federal? I don't know. It doesn't stand down. Can Barnaby even be elected leader? The Nationals needed a majority of the... Okay, so Barnaby Joyce can become leader, can become Prime Minister, but it's just unlikely. Because for starters, he doesn't even have support in the Nationals. But for instance, Arthur Fadden in the 40s became leader of the coalition despite being in the junior partner. So he was Prime Minister for a while. Usually the Nationals the Liberals want one of their own to lead, so they're very unlikely to support a thing. But if you get like a real solid, popular country party leader, the Liberals could potentially be wooed to make them the full leader, but it doesn't happen that much. The cost of living is one of those things that would sort of unfortunately, I think was it Jim Chalmers who was saying that the inflation seems to be getting under control recently. Inflation's coming down, the housing market seems to be coming. I think things seem to be coming down, but obviously, more structural change will obviously take a decade. But I think by the end of this year we should be over the worst of it. Although I think I said that last time. I think I said it last year and it still hasn't. But I'm getting more optimistic that the economy is on the rise. I think we've avoided the worst of things. AUKUS won't hurt them aside from a few Green protests. Yeah, I agree. You might see the Greens vote go up, but that's about it. I actually think Labour's vote's going to go up again. If you look at the opinion polling, Labour is doing really well in Victoria. Labour's doing really well. Obviously, it's Bradfield. We don't talk about Bradford. But again, that's just Bradford showing that, even the Liberals' blue ribbon seats, they are losing. The areas where they're still holding strong is mostly in the countryside. It's mainly in the small country towns where Labor is not doing well. But obviously, Aston is not a small country town. Oh, there's the Dan Andrews thing. So that's obviously, we'll come back a bit to that later. So we've got some of your comments saying, I wonder if a Queenslander at the helm would talk about a federal LNP merger. I actually think right now the Liberals are I actually possibly think the LNP merger was a mistake in Queensland. I think there's been a few talks that obviously they got them that huge majority in 2011, but since then, 2012, sorry, but since then the Liberals have not been able to win in Queensland, a state that should support them by huge margins. And I generally think one of the biggest issues is obviously while the strong conservative approach is benefiting the Nationals, it seems to be hurting the Liberals, and so the Liberals kind of, in some respects, want to distance themselves from the Nationals. It's one of the main reasons why I don't think they've ever done it before. Obviously, they did it in South Australia, and it seems to be doing fine, but so the Liberals in South Australia are very different. Even the country Liberals, the Liberals from the country seats are different to the Nationals. It's possible. I don't know. What do you think, Chad? Do you think a federal-wide LNP merger would be good to just end the coalition and turn it all into one party? I wonder if that would result in the country Liberals having to change their name or something in the Northern Territory. Yeah, so Beth Corky thinks the LNP was a bad idea, and I'd possibly agree. It's just basically admitting that when you're with the Nats are a bit like the Greens in the sense that they don't have to run to the centre to win the majority of votes like the Liberals do. They're like how the Greens can just basically push whatever they want and not really care about the fact that 80% of the country doesn't want it. It's the same thing with the Nats, and that's why I think the Liberals probably, again, I think I'd stay with the Liberals wanting to stay away from a full merger with the Nats. The Nationals are doing well, but the Liberals aren't. But the Nationals are only doing well out in the countryside, which again I told you, like in the seats that they're in the inner city seats, the Liberals are doing bad. Like their conservative message is not resonating with the well-educated upper middle class voters that occupied their blue ribbon seats. That's why they lost them to the Teals, and why seats like Bradfield and possibly Aston are on such thin margins these days. Are there any indications of how the 2024 Queensland election will go? Of course, it's quite far away, but I still haven't seen much polling. So I've seen a bit of polling, and it has the Labor Party and the LNP neck and neck. I don't know at the moment. Obviously, Labor is known to outpoll on the state level in Queensland. I know, weird. Like, the polling usually shows like neck and neck, and then Labor actually gets a few extra votes. It's happened in the last few elections with Anastasia Palaszczuk. Obviously, I don't know if that luck's going to keep holding out. But again, I think it's going to have to wait closer, because I think, remember, Labor was predicted to lose Queensland, and then COVID shot Palaszczuk back into government. So for all I know, another economic change could see her shoot back in. I don't know, people might be getting sick of her. Obviously, she is one of the older premiers in the state. She's been there for, closing in on 9 years now, so it'll be interesting to see how the electorate views her. Obviously, we've got Andrews, who's I think will be hitting 10 years next year, so it's one of the most controversial premiers. It's been impressive how long he stayed in. And, and a part of me always kind of likes these people to stay in for long times and try and break records. Obviously, I don't think any of them are going to make to the 26 or so years that was Thomas Playford's record. But it'd be interesting to see if they could, get to Menzies' record of 16. Like, do you think people like Andrews and Palaszczuk would stay on until 2030? I'm not sure about in these days, but it's possible. Places like Britain and the UK, urban-rural divide seems to be becoming the main political cleavage. Alongside the rural city divide, which I think has been around for ages, the big divide I think a lot of people have been talking about has been the generational divide, which is why in growing areas where young families are moving in, are becoming more and more progressive, but then dying areas where you have small towns that are slowly losing people and only now have large senior populations. You're actually seeing them becoming more conservative. Like, obviously, I think one of the big factors that you're seeing in North Queensland and why the electorate there is going so much in favour of the Liberal Party is because a lot of retirees are there, and young people aren't moving to North Queensland. Young people are moving to inner Sydney, inner Brisbane, and inner Melbourne, which is why you're seeing those seats become so green. If polls stay this way, I could see Labor winning one more time. So you're talking about the Queensland election, Kevin, or are you talking about the federal election? Dan could get to 16 if he wins in 2026. He still has a big majority, but anything could happen. Yeah, well, he has a big majority, but the majority actually, the margins are much narrower this time. He actually has a more chance of losing seats in the next election than he did at the previous one. So I'm thinking actually doing a video, if you guys are interested, again on Patreon is where you can help decide video ideas. I'm thinking about doing a video on the state of the Liberal Party and where their best opportunities to pick up. So obviously next year, they're not winning the ACT. I highly doubt they'll win the ACT, but Queensland and the Northern Territory are probably their two best shots, I would say, next year. Obviously Tasmania, I think, heads to the polls soon after that. Tasmania's going to be interesting because obviously if Labor wins Queensland, Northern Territory, Tasmania will then be, it'll be on its own to see if it can survive another Labor election. I think there's a decent chance they could still hold on in Tasmania, though that would be the Liberals will be doing pretty well in Tasmania if they win the next election. I think Victoria Labor can win 2026, but Andrews would be too tired to run for a fourth time. Well, he would be running for a fourth time if he won 2026, wouldn't he? Because he ran in 2014, 2018, 2022. Yeah, it would be his fourth run. So I think it would be his fourth term, but he'd be running for a fifth time. Tasmania, for example, trending more conservative because younger voters are moved to the mainland. Yeah, exactly, Nellum. That's what I was saying, is the fact that in the areas where the demographics getting older, like, dying country towns and stuff like that, you're seeing them become more conservative. That's why the Nationals in some respects are doing so well, because people are leaving the countryside. But any sort of rural seat that has a major city forming up in it, like Ballarat or Bendigo, is... Anyway, have we got any results for Aston yet? Obviously, I think these polling booths are still... I was hoping we'd have some results by now. Like, we're almost an hour in and we still haven't got any results. It's rare for Labor to win more than 4 terms with a single premier, especially with 4-year fixed terms. Like, obviously, South Australia, we managed to get 4 terms with the Labor government, although that last one was a bit dodgy. Like, I'd be honest, I think Labor is fine in Victoria at the moment. The Liberals do not seem capable of governing. Like, I have trouble seeing the Liberals winning as their current state at the next Victorian election. Same with WA. Like, I think McGowan's insured another term. Northern Territory and South Australia, we've only got first-term Labor governments, so I think they're all... Yep. It's very rare to have one-term governments. You only have one-term governments in when the government really stuffs up and things like that, or it's quite incompetent. Like, when was the last time we only had a one-term Labor government? Does anyone know when the last time we had a one-term Labor government? I'm not talking federally, obviously I know when that last happened, that was in the Depression, but statewide, do you know any statewide Labor governments that have only lasted one term? Because I would be interested to hear about that. West Saxon says, I think regional cities like Newcastle and Ballarat are statistically the strongest Labor supporting areas in the country. What, do you think they're stronger than the cities, do you? Well, I guess they probably have a stronger Labor support than Green support, I'd probably say. Isn't it the thing where it's like, people over 50 vote Liberal, people under 50 vote Labor, and then people like in their 20s vote Greens or something? SA Labor wanted 6... What is that? I know about SA Labor's win. I know SA's Labor win back then, but is that really the only time that's happened? Is it in the 60s? Surely there's been like a more recent government that's only won one term, like in like Victoria or somewhere. Like, I'm trying to think. Obviously Victoria's no. WA, did WA have a one-term Labor government? Labor state governments always seem pretty long-standing. Yeah, it was funny because I remember in 2019 people were talking about how the Labor Party's dead and the Labor Party can't win elections anymore after Scott Morrison's upset. But Labor was doing fine on the state level. I had no idea where that motion was come from. If anything, the Liberal notion the Liberals are dead is way more of a potent message now because they're not only on the federal level, they're in poor shape on the state level. Although with that being said, like, the Liberals were in a pretty bad state through most of the 2000s, but then proceeded to win most of the federal elections. Like, it's weird that the Liberals do a lot better federally than the Labor governments do, than the state Labor governments. I don't like, so state Liberal governments do pretty badly, but then federal Liberal governments do really well. I don't know why that's the case. Maybe there's more Murdoch propaganda on the federal level. Maybe people... I've heard some people say they like... It's the theory I think they go is they want the state Labor governments to do the policies, and then they want the federal Liberal government to manage the books, but I'm not sure how true that is. Labor has reevaluated focus their core values on health education, very smart shift in decision for them. What do you think their values were before then? Like environmental stuff? Also, the major cities have rich Tory areas, which regional cities seem to lack. Actually, no, yeah, that's true. That's probably one of the reasons why cities probably focus so strongly. The country cities are a bit more Labor focused. But then you get those occasional towns that are like big retirement villages. My grandparents lived in a small town called Moonta, and that town is basically just retirees, so I wouldn't be surprised if it's very strong Liberal voters. Because that's extremely funny because in 2019 the LNP had 5 straight one-term governments in states and territories before the LNP got back in. Yeah, because they got 1 term in Victoria, 1 term in SA, 1 term in Queensland, 1 term in the Northern Territory. The only places they won re-election was WA. I think they had 2 elections before they got defeated. And New South Wales, where they actually did pretty well in New South Wales for a while, and then obviously Tasmania, and they're doing pretty well at the moment. Do we have any results? It's almost an hour in. Oh yes, we finally got some results. Yes. Okay, and the results are literally identical. 52.1, 52.8. Okay, so currently the swing is a little bit, but finally we got some results. And the results, that's not bad. Everyone seems, obviously Labor is up, but unfortunately they're being hit by a drop in the Greens, which is resulting in Liberals overall being ahead. Okay, so 1 out of 36 sentences reported. That's good. And again, Fusion's. I did call Fusion to be last. I really don't think they're going to. The weather, guys. I guess if you curious. What's it going to be in South Australia? Presumably they'll start mentioning a bit of the Aston election in a bit. Hopefully we get to see some Anthony Green. I can imagine the vote counts with sticky finger caps frantically. Yeah, I think a lot of people actually voted on the day today, so I think we should hopefully get a lot of the results today. I think counting will probably go a bit late into the day. Unfortunately, this is a state booth, so unfortunately, this is a city booth, sorry, which means unfortunately that the polling centres are probably quite large, so that's why it's going to take a while to count. If this was a rural booth, you'd have a lot of little towns with small booths that can count through their votes really quickly. As someone who's done scrutineering, it does take them a decent hour or so to report, but I'm hoping over the next half an hour we'll get a few more results. Yeah, I know it's only one polling place. Here's a daylight savings tomorrow, guys. Remember that. So here's a funny thing: my car clock. I just haven't bothered to change the time on it, so it's finally gonna be back in time again, which is great. Best call guesses. I think we might see Aston a 1% margin after all this. Yeah, I think the Liberals are going to lose. Are going to lose some of their vote, but I think they're still mostly predicted to win it. But I think Labor still has a chance. Obviously, the big booths haven't come in yet. That will be the big determiner to see if they can win. Do you think we're going to have a result by the end of today? Do you think they're going to call it today, or do you think it's going to be left in a likely state, or in a toss-up state by the end of tonight? All right, don't think we've got any more results yet. Still just the first. Oh, wait, did they come with another booth? No, they haven't. We don't know what booth came through. I think Anthony Green will tell us what the booth came in through is, and if it's a booth that favours, if it's a really strong Liberal booth, or if it's a toss-up booth, or if it's a Labor booth. Hopefully Fusion does well. They're commanded by... I don't know. Fusion's had some weird decisions that have kind of turned me off. Their candidate had some weird ideas. The indications which way the preferences and independent made his vote as we go. I'm unsure. It shows the previous result polling place. The ABC has that. Okay, yep. So here's the previous result from the federal election last year. So I'm going to move it over here. So obviously you can see the changes here. Oh wait, here we go. So it's Rowville East that was the polling booth with 710 voters. So it seems to be an increase to the Liberal vote by the looks of it. Oh, here we go. So is that saying it's up? Change your first preference vote by count centre. Okay, so it looks like. Okay.
Underway in the Aston By-Election, the first major test of the leadership of the Prime Minister and opposition leader.
First preferences. Some of your first preferences back here. Okay. Alright, are they going to do more of the count or not?
Labor falls short of majority government in New South Wales, with 2 more seats called for the Liberal Party. Donald Trump.
So you can see with the strongest. Oh, actually, that's right. You wanted me to. I should do this. Here we go. This is what we want this figure. So we can see Labor does well sort of along the Belgrave line. So the train line sort of comes through here. So obviously they'll probably, usually the way I see it is they want to sort of expand out. So we've got 51, 52, 52. Obviously it's much stronger Liberal down here. So Labor probably will want to win around this area. Alright, let's have a look a bit more of the video. So it looks like Liberals are a little bit down from the first booth, but we'll see how well some of the more. This looks. So Rowville East is like what? Where's Rowville? Rowville is. Yeah, so it's down here. So it's in. So the first booth was very much in the strong Liberal territory. So we'll see more come through when we get sort of the booths from Bayswater, Barona, and Upper Ferntree Gully. By the way, have you guys actually watched my Aston electorate short video yet? I might recommend you guys watch that if you want to see a bit more details on the electorate. It's only about a minute long. There you go.
We've got 0.6% vote counted for the Rowville East polling place.
I'll turn up.
Campbell, 35% for the Labor Party. If you look at the change in first preference votes there, the Labor and Liberal vote is up. Of course, remember, there was a big vote for United Australia and One Nation last election. Some of that has gone to the independents at this by-election, and some of it has gone back to
the others aren't running in this election. One Nation and United Australia.
There's a 1.5% swing to Labor. Don't take this too seriously until we get a few more, and it will help when we get a preference count. But that's just to give that first figure that's come in from Rowville East.
Would 1.5 win them the seat? Let's just go back to here. Full coverage. So the 1.5%, if they got that, no, it would not win them the seat. They need a 2.8% swing to win the seat. Oh, sorry, actually, we just
I got
speaking
some
again.
advice from Tony Barry telling me that the polling place has moved since last election, so that may reflect also where the polling place has moved.
Okay, Anthony, thank you. PK, as Anthony rightly says, we're talking about one of 36 booths across the.
Alright, so when do you think we get the next booth come through? Anthony Green making bar graphs excited for 3 decades and counting. Yeah, I've always liked the graphics. Graphics are always the fun part. So I put a lot of graphics in my videos.
Tonight, just to give it a bit of context, is a big night for the Liberal Party. The Liberal Party was really decimated.
My polling place is much more telling. Labour won about 12 polling places. You can see TPP going below 1%. So you're saying, like, you know, Liberals winning with only like 50-point bit. To be honest, that's what I expect. If they had a win, I expect them to win with only like 50.9 or 50.8. That's what I'd expect if they were to win this. I actually suspect they will not win the one.
Represent the seat of Aston in history, so that's a first. And if Sheena Campbell is successful, if this doesn't turn out to be a swing against the Liberals that is detrimental to her ability to win that seat, she'll be the first Hindu MP for the Liberal Party. So
You know, they say first Hindu for the Liberal Party, because obviously Labour's had a. Well, is it Labour or someone else has had a Hindu?
remember that when Alan Touch first resigned from this seat, there was brief, David, but speculation that Josh Frydenberg might put his hand up.
Oh my, who the heck wanted Josh Frydenberg? Like, seriously, who wanted Josh Frydenberg representing this seat?
The Labor candidate who ran in the last election, who had that pretty significant swing to her, and now this is her second time running in that electorate.
if by some chance Labor does win, do you reckon that'll mean the end of Dutton's leadership, or could he walk that off? Yeah, we were sort of talking about that earlier in the stream. If it's a definitive thumping here, like Dutton would really want to be shown the door, but like if it's a small loss, like he could brush it off to saying, it's Victoria, but like it's your safest Melbourne seat. Like you can't brush off losing your safest Melbourne seat. That's kind of messed up. Wait, this is Pollen's in an NLP stronghold. So if 1.5 swing is a strong area, what would it mean for bigger seats? I don't know. Like, for all we know, it could be a 1.5 swing in every booth. So, like, we don't know if they're late. Because it really depends on who's in the seat. It's how likely the people in the seat are to change their mind. Because there are some areas where people are rusted on voters, and there are some areas where people are very flexible. So you never know what the number of people that change their mind are, and it can change from election to election. Like in one election, so for instance, something like Braddon, who you might have seen in the last electorate in short, has a huge number of people that change their mind, but then you never know when they're going to change their mind. You never know what's the thing that's going to make them change. Do we have any more results? No, we do not. No, I thought Menzies and Deakin safe. No, Menzies and Deakin are actually less safe. If you watch my electorate in short video, I actually show the margins of Menzies and Deakin, and they're actually lower than Aston.
Absolutely expectation management, right? So for Peter Dutton, that's why you'll hear from the Liberals. I certainly have, David, I bet you have 3,000 times, a win's a win. So they're really trying to lower expectations, that we should be looking at the level of the win. Any win is a win. Obviously they realise that a loss, David, would be terrible for them.
Yeah, the Victorian Liberals are in pretty dire straits at the moment. Like, Melbourne is basically a giant Labor stronghold. It's the second largest city in the country. That's not a city you want to only have 3 seats in. Oh, another booth's in. Cool, let's see what we've got. So, doesn't appear to have shown up here. Or is this meant to be an April Fool's prank? Susan Lee would be a downgrade on Dutton. And Flinders doesn't count. Oh yeah, sorry, they don't even count Flinders. You know, it contains Mornington Peninsula and stuff. So we can't talk about. Oh, here we go. Yeah, I've got it now. Ooh, what booth is this? What booth is this? That's not the right one. It's is that just? They haven't put the booth in. We don't know what booth it was. Wow. Okay, so we don't know what. That's a big swing to Labor. So Labor is now they shot up into the first preference vote. Wow. Okay, so could be. Alright, that's interesting. It's weird, like, it feels weird something so hyper-focused on one seat, doesn't it? Like, we don't usually follow elections in one seat this closely, do we? Well, I guess I kind of did when I did, what do we call it? I've forgotten the name of the term. Scrutineering, when I did scrutineering, yeah. Wantina South, is that what it is? Okay, let's have a look. Okay.
The Northern Roval, 39% party. So on that polling place, the change in vote here is interesting. The Labor vote well up, the Liberal vote down, Greens, others, and that's translating into a 2-party preferred swing. Now, it's a very small polling place. This is our estimates. I wouldn't sort of take that.
Would it be so great if this was the actual swing?
Bouncing around, but we're just trying to get the impression across that we're actually getting some figures, just so people don't think we're going to talk all night. But yeah, we got 2 figures in, and they're both showed quite different figures at this stage. 1 to Liberals, 1 to Labor.
Yeah, well,
Does the AEC...
Andy, thank you. They might be biting more than one fingernail now. At the,
Okay, multiple fingernails and now...
So do we think... does the AEC show swings, or do they just show the raw numbers? So Wantirna South is... Wow, actually, wow, that's over here. That is That is big. That's in big Liberal territory. So that will be interesting if that holds. Because it wasn't this the area. It wasn't this in a Labor seat in the state election. Oh wait, have I got the 2019 results? No, 2022. Oh yeah, you're right. Sorry. So, this is much better. Sorry, my bad. Yeah, sorry. Okay, but still, that's big. Like, Quintina South is over here, isn't it? Yeah. Thank you for pointing that out. I do apologise. Still swing of 11%, so yeah, so... That's all good as well. That's why I'm here, to make sure I'm honest and correct and not making dumb mistakes. By the way, have any of you guys ever been to Aston? I obviously went to Belgrave in 2018 because this is where you catch Puffing Billy. So Puffing Billy goes all the way up through Emerald, all the way up to Gembrook, which is somewhere over here. There is Gembrook. You catch Puffing Billy from Belgrave. So obviously I went through here on the train. The funniest story actually I remember is when I caught the train back at Belgrave. I caught the train at Belgrave and caught it. In Adelaide, you use your Metrocard on the train. Whereas in Melbourne, you meant to stand on the platform, but I forgot to scan on the platform, so I'm riding the train here, and I get to like Upper Fern Tree Gully, and I'm like, oh no, I forgot to swipe onto the train. So as soon as the train pulls into Upper Fern Tree Gully, I like run out of the train, run into the station building, scan my card on the scanning port, and then like run right back into the train. That's quite a funny stunt I had to pull off there to pay for my not become a fare dodger on the Melbourne Metro. Keep me updated if more of the count comes through. I don't think, like, so they're mentioning like the cost of living crisis at the moment, but I don't know how many people actually blame Labor for the cost of living crisis because they can see Labor's trying to fix it. In fact, I think a lot of them, maybe I'm being optimistic, are probably blaming the coalition for lying about the state of the economy before losing the election. They lied so much that we just didn't know how much of a bad state we were in. Lost Mur says this will likely be tight. Yeah, it's going to be tight. Like, we're expecting swings against the Liberals in a seat that's quite marginal. Like, it's likely we could end tonight without knowing who's likely to win it. We could be down to like 50.1% one way or the other, but we still don't know yet. We've only got like 2 polling booths at the moment. So, we got another polling booth. Oh, three's in. Okay, did it just narrow up? Yeah, it was 53 earlier, wasn't it? So it's narrowed up a bit. Oh wait, no, the Liberals have taken the lead. Okay, the Liberals have taken the lead on the second polling booth. Where's this polling booth? What's the polling booth? Is it Camberwell? Wait. Yeah, but what polling booth was the was it called from? Oh, so we don't know what the file was. See. Oh, Baronia East.
Polling places now. Still that swing to Labor on first preferences and the other one's down. Now, the two-party preferred swing here, I'll just clarify, this swing is coming off only the Baronia East polling place, so it doesn't include the 2 that have come in since. So perhaps, because this is 3 polling places, this one might be more reliable, but still, it is still only 3 polling places, 2.7% counted, so you want to see a bigger sample than just 3.
Certainly do. We're in that...
So let's have a check. So Baronia East is here. That should be more Labor, shouldn't it? It'd be a bit weird if that was a Liberal voting booth. Swing tables. So we've got Roval East there. maybe the early results are reporting, because I think Roeville East seems to be showing up here on the swing table of the different polling booths. Oh, here we go, polling place results. Oh, here we go. Roeville East. They've got Roeville East here, but that's the only one showing up at the moment. As you see that, they mentioned something about Chinese people being in the area, so if people were concerned that Labour Andrew's visiting China would be a negative, that probably wouldn't affect an area with a large Chinese population. In fact, it was largely believed that Liberals' hawkish stance on China is actually what cost them votes. Like, I have a few Chinese friends, and I know they weren't happy with the coalition's attitude towards China. Only one booth is reporting preferences. One of them was the Labour. So they're preference predictions. Is that what Dan's doing? Is a technical term that might be possible. Dan is going to call me. I don't know what you mean by that, Naylam. Okay. Oh, they got a new percent of the vote, did they? Okay, so we've got four senators reporting in, and Liberals are currently up at the moment.
Anthony Gray and Exhibit. Anthony, what do we know about this one?
All right, this is the third. The first one was looking good for the Liberals. The 3 cents have been roughly the same. Again, the Labor's ahead on first preferences from 33 there for the Liberal Party. The change in vote, 12% with the Greens, 8% with an independent. The change in votes occurring, the Liberals down, the Labor Party's up, and the others are down. So
this is looking very good for Labor if this is true.
3 polling places, but that's 3 polling places which have had the same trend. Labor vote up, the Liberal vote down, but they're all from the end of the electorate where to expect Labor to do slightly better. So let's not get too excited over 4.
So do we know if this is 10% against the whole electorate or 10% against the current booth?
By-election, and we do get excited because we are waiting. Thank you very much, Anthony, and we'll throw back to Gemma Vaness for more of the day's news.
Thanks, David and Peter.
All right, so going back to more of the news.
We've got the other day's news now, and still on a...
So, okay, so it still seems like we're not getting through too much of it. So I don't know where this percentage counting is coming from. Like, it seems to be. Oh, so actually maybe this is actually factoring in that we're getting these swings in the Labor areas, but these swings are in the Labor areas. Why has Labor gone backwards? This is a bit confusing. Yeah, it's weird because you look here, right? Labor's at 41.3, Greens are at 12.3. That should be a easy win, but maybe obviously they're factoring in the swings here compared to what the votes are at the other booths. Oh, is that 52.9% only coming in from that one booth down in the south of the electorate? As I say, like, maybe it's a controversial opinion, but like I think Labor is going to get a tick up in their votes this election, not just because there's less parties running, but maybe it's me, but I think Labor's become a lot more popular in government than before they came to government. I think before they came to government, everyone was like unsure about Albanese, and they thought it was a bit of. I've heard, like, if you watched my video with Aussies Elect after the election, he was saying how he thought a lot of people viewed Albanese as a bit of a goose, a bit of a bimbo. But I think people have since seen that that's not the kind of guy he is, and I think they're actually possibly going to reward him for that. Okay, so the results are coming through. Okay, 4%. So hopefully we should in the next 30 minutes get the majority of the booths. We're slowly knocking through them. Has any of the others reported? Oh, okay. So Barona East has shown that that's not good for the Liberals. Wow, so that's okay. Things are looking. Are you guys feeling more confident about a Labour win, or are you still thinking it's too early to call? Okay, so don't look at the two-party vote until 20%. Okay, yeah. Do you think Labour's doing it, guys, or do you think it's? What's the mood in the chat at the moment? Where do you think Labour's landing on this? Actually, I probably should have that on just so I can.
Jonathan Richard Anthony did not apply for bail because the polling custody. Reporter Ashley Davis has more on the abduction.
Oh, seven are in now. Damn, Labour is killing this.
Breaking into a home
Obviously, I think most of these booths are in the north. Have we got south booths yet?
region. Police say that he broke into the home and abducted an 8-year-old
Canada's Australia won easily.
location before coming back and allegedly.
Oh, I've been burned already by Terrigal in New South Wales, so I don't not true. Yeah, I guess you because Labor's ahead. But Labor is doing really well. Like on these margins, Labor has got likely got 53 to 54%. It's like you think about it, right? The Greens will 90% support Labor, and then chances are Fusion will also support Labor. So Labor's currently on like 55 or something at the moment. If this holds. Liberals don't win if they don't win, unless there's a Nationals running. But unless there's a National running, Liberals do not win when they're below Labor in the first preferences. You'd say there was not much there. So there wasn't many pre-poll voters. They actually had to get out there and they had to actually really put a campaign out to get people to actually come out and vote. Because people forgot there was actually a by-election, or not forgot, just didn't even know. No, it's just watch them. Sometimes I just love watching like American cam videos because they just say what's on the screen. It's like, oh my god, the building's on fire. Well, no shit, we can see the building's on fire. Oh dear. Tornado in Aston. Yeah, big red Labour tornado. Nah, we're just watching some of the other news until the US Aston. Alright, we'll come back to that in a bit later. Once the news has ended. Oh, they are admitting it. ALP is ahead. ALP is ahead. Oh my goodness. I know I'm not supposed to be biased on this channel. This channel's meant to be apolitical, but like, it's really hard for me not to be excited right now. So we've got 10 out of 36 centres. We're at 10%, and if this is what Labor's at 10%. Like I would be getting very excited in Labor HQ at the moment. Did you do scrutineering for so I did scrutineering for the Labor Party at the South Australian state election and the federal election. So in the state election, I did scrutineering for the seat of Colton, which is sort of in the West Beach area, so just west of Adelaide Airport. And then for the federal, I did Sturt, which is sort of east of the city, sort of like the eastern suburbs. So that's the two places in scrutineering. Was written up. The tornado was Peter Dutton ruining Aston. Katorak says, I'm moving to a Labour now. Oh, that's interesting. Nice to know. Welcome to the team. Sorry, I'm meant to be apolitical today. It's hard to be apolitical when you get passionate about politics. But these results, like, am I seeing these results right, guys? Like, is there something I should know about these results? Like, is it because we haven't seen the Liberal areas come through yet? Okay, they're still doing other news. Also, Donald Trump stuff. Yeah, I really don't want to talk about Donald Trump stuff at the moment. Like, US politics it's just depressing. I've had a few conversations with people on the Nashville shooting, and it's just depressing to look at how the US is run as a country. 1 out of 3 booths, and Labour's killing the first province, is my word. The first province is a very worried. Yes, if I were the Liberals right now, I would be extremely worried. Like, if Labour does win 40%, look, they're up almost 10%. They're up almost 10%. It's gone up since this count's come through. We're closing in on the halfway point now with the booths, right? obviously this number's pretty low, but remember, a lot of people didn't pre-poll. A lot of people didn't pre-poll, so even if this number gets to, like, as soon as this number gets close to the end, even if this number's reasonably low, a lot of those people just didn't vote, so there's a good chance that the result we see on tonight is going to be the result for this seat. Alright, so doing Trump stuff. So yeah, that is very interesting. Let's see, go swing table. So Liberals down there. Actually, we're going to go to the two, so 42, 34, 44. So they've only got a few, only the small boosts in. So this stuff's not super. I think this stuff's going to be super. Let's go back to the full coverage. ALP is still ahead. We do not need to see Marjorie Taylor Greene and Lauren Brobart because they are not smart. They are annoying. Trump in Aston. Yeah, not only is there a tornado in Aston, there's now Trump in Aston. What's worse? ALP projection has increased. Yep, obviously they've come through a few more two-party seats. Further results have come through now, which is good. Nope, still more. Still more. Jeez, this is taking forever to get through all the. So we've got about 36. That'll be 18 centres when we get the halfway point. Is it because Labour's numbers increasing? Like, they seem to be picking up all the votes off the Liberals here. Like, it is big. I love this guy. The Liberal voters. So it hasn't said, it says ALP ahead, it hasn't said ALP likely yet. Usually when it says ALP likely, that's when it's all over, because the second after it says ALP likely, it just goes, boom, they win. 50% of the vote counted now in the world. Labour still has 40%. Yeah, this is insane. Again, like, I kind of betted this whole live stream that Labour would win this election. Like, you know, I wasn't planning, like, one reason I wanted to do this live stream is I wanted to see if this 1 in 100 year event could happen. Like, are we seeing the first time in 100 years that a government has picked up a seat? Are we finally getting vengeance for Billy Hughes stealing Kalgoorlie off us? You know, they stole an election, they stole a seat off us in a by-election, and now we steal one back. Oh, the Trump stuff's over. Is it? You want to watch Formula One, don't you, Kevin? You want to see Formula One racing? All right. Yes. Here's your race cars. Are you happy now? Yes, there's now motorsports racing in Aston. There was a tornado, then Trump, now there's motorsports racing. It's all happening in Aston. What's the last? Oh, no. Oh, yeah, well, it's sort of, yeah. So basically, you can read here. Do you want me to read it out? Or do you want me to sort of summarise? Basically, an Irish nationalist. Is this guy Australian? I don't know. Anyway, he died. This guy, Hugh Mannon, attacked British policy in Ireland. He was then expelled because, we were massively pro-British then. After being expelled, they had a by-election and he lost to the Liberals because Billy Hughes, I think if you watch my Prime Minister's in the Spotlight, the episode with Billy Hughes in it, ARW explained quite a lot that Hughes was massively, he used British prejudice against the Irish to win votes, because Labour was full of Irish Catholics, and so he used prejudice against Irish Catholics to take down Labour members. It was pretty disgusting. And we've got 15, so we're almost at halfway there. Labour is still, I think they're even higher. They're like 9.4. It could be a 10% swing at the end of this. Basically, Labour just didn't like the British imperialism, got kicked out. Yeah, who should return as a national? Actually, speaking about Hughes, the seat I'll be talking about, Bradfield, which is this week's electorate in short, is actually the seat Hughes it was the last seat Hughes represented before he died in 1952. So if you guys are interested, he makes a bit of an appearance in that episode. How you go from gunslinger to tourist building? Yeah, like smart. People asking me about Mark Latham the other day. That's a similar case. they're missing. Like, considering that now they've stopped doing the coverage of the Aston by-election. Things are all getting super interesting here. We still got we got 16th booth in. Oh, Labor went down a little bit, but they are still killing it here. I would be sweating a lot. Are you guys feeling confident, or are you thinking like it's still really up in the air here? Like, how much have we got? We got 18 points. I guess it is still early. Like, it could still be that the big Liberal areas just haven't come in yet. Okay, I think we're coming back now, so let's have a see what's going on. Alright. I think it's interesting that the RW right-wing party has been fed by continuous Labour defections, but that hasn't really happened in a while. Yeah, it is true that sort of like, often in some respects the left side are the biggest enemies themselves, which is why I've been really glad about how unified the Labour Party's been recently. Like, there's really a big consensus in, I think, current Labour circles, from what I've been of like party meetings, that it's, to get that we stand strong, divided we fall. And I think that motion's stayed strong. Obviously, it could break down over time, and it usually breaks that. It's historic that in long-running parties in power, the disunity usually just gets bigger and bigger and bigger, while positions get more and more united. And that's when the flip happens, and then it flips around. The new government then slowly breaks down, and the opposition gets more and more united. So that's usually the history of how political unity works. Albo has united, but yeah, well, I don't know anyone in the Labour Party who actually doesn't like Albo. Like, maybe a few fringes, maybe the strong left people like would prefer but then like most of the strong left people have gone to the Greens, and you can even see then the Greens aren't really eating huge into Labour. Sure, they picked up 3 seats in Brisbane, but like that was kind of just how the preferences fell. I don't think the Greens got huge percent gains in Queensland. I haven't got the stats with me right now. You guys can look that up if you want and tell me. Like, how much did the Greens gain in actual first preferences across Queensland as a whole? Oh, here we go.
Counted now. Tell us.
Well, I'm watching. I'll do this slowly because I've got to watch out that the figures haven't changed since I last looked at them. We've got 16 polling places in on primaries at this stage. Labor's on 42, Machine Campbell for the Liberal Party on 34, the Greens 12, the Independent Libertarian Mayor Tessa's on 8. Now, we're comparing primary votes on a first preference basis, on a matched polling place basis. At the moment, we're projecting both Labor and Liberal will end up on about the same figure, about 40%, and with about 10% ending up with the Greens, and 2/3 of preferences are flowing to Labor. So if the two parties are projected to be on roughly the same, then those preference flows will get Labor over the line. Now, we haven't got a lot of polling places from the south of the electorate around Scoresby and Listerfield. This is mainly from the north.
Okay, so the south hasn't come in yet.
The swing's pretty consistent at the moment, so we'll wait and see what those other figures are. And as I also have to remember, having sort of dealt with these big early pre-polling voting centres last weekend, there was a different trend. There may be a different trend in those pre-polls, but we'll have to wait and see for that. Let's look at the change in vote that's occurring. This is on those 16
this is
polling places. As I said, Labor
this is
up 8,
wow.
Liberals down 3, Greens down slightly, others down 2. There was a big vote for One Nation and United Australia last time. And as I was saying, those swings end up producing basically equal Labor and Liberal first preference if projecting through. Now, we've got a preference count in now 5 of the 36 polling places. It's showing a 6% swing, and at this stage we have Labor Party ahead. So that is now starting to reflect the trend we're seeing on the first preferences. So look, there's some quite dramatic figures going on here at the moment. I'm very cautious about calling a seat so early, but these are quite dramatic.
Those Victorian results are looking good.
Andy Green, respect your caution as always. Thank you very much for that. They are big swings though. After preferences, you can see there 6% to Labor. On the primary swing, it's 8%, just over 8% to.
So this we've got okay, so that sounds like that's guys. So I think it's looking more and more likely. Have we got to the 18 Magic 8? Oh yes, we have passed the halfway, so we've got half the booths counted. Obviously still some very big booths in the south to come through, but I think Anthony Green was saying that he's seeing the same swings across the booths. Like, it's not like the south booths are not swinging to the Liberals. Like, the south booths are also swinging to Labor. Obviously it's still being won by the Liberals, but the swing is not, there's not like a big swing in the Labor areas and no swing in the Liberal areas. It still appears that the swing is pretty uniform across the whole seat, which at this rate, unless the big booths do something drastic, Labor likely has this. I'm actually wondering, I want to know what you guys think. So if you guys know, in the Alfura by-election in the Northern Territory 2 weeks ago, what happened is the Labor won massively there. And it's widely believed the reason why they won massively is because the Liberal voters didn't show up. It's looking like that's happening here as well. It looks like the Liberal voters just aren't showing up. That's possibly what could be happening here. I want to know if you guys think that's what's happening too. The Liberal voters are just demoralised and are just not feeling worthwhile coming out to vote. And I think Labor is very much motivated here. Because Labor hates Alan Tudge. They really want to, stick it to him and get Aston into Labor. And I think there's just so much momentum behind Albo at the moment. Yeah, so almost a 10% swing to Labor at the moment. Did you guys want to listen to some of the more broadcasting, or do you want to listen to my voice? Labor has been hurt by years in opposition, 9 years since. Aston was really late. Yes, Aston was originally won by Labor. If you look here, yeah, so Labor won it in 84 and 87, but then lost it in 1990. Oh, did we see a big swing against Labor? No, we didn't. Okay, it's still. So we've still got 19 booths. Do we look at the swing table? We're just. Yeah, so Labor lost Aston in 1990 because of the early 90s recession. Yeah, that was the 90s. Also, the Labor government at the time under John Cain Jr. was quite unpopular. So it's famous. So if you watch my 1990s election video, you would know that the Liberals under Andrew Peacock picked up a lot of seats in Victoria. Labor was actually able to win by countering by winning seats in Queensland. It's weird, isn't it? Like, to think the Liberals were banking on Victorian seats and Labor was banking on Queensland seats. Why is Dr. House on ABC Law? Also, so Aston currently, there is a tornado in Aston, Trump is in Aston, there's a Formula 1 race in Aston, and now Dr. House is in Aston. Like, what's next? This reminds me of the first 2 years of Kevin Rudd after 2007 when he was insanely popular. Yeah, but when they're saying that even when he was insanely popular in his first few years, he still wasn't able to win by-elections? The board has come to see this historic moment, yeah. Remember me when I watched the WA election, if you guys watched that live stream about 2 years ago, I remember live streaming it because it was the biggest win in WA history. It always feels good when you get to see history in the making, doesn't it? Like, you feel like, I'm here watching this moment in history. It feels really impressive. Albo's more popular. Is Albo more popular than Rudd? Like, isn't Albo only sitting on like a 55% approval rating? I thought he was like, I think he's above water, but not like, he's not like in his 60s or so. He's not like, Morrison got up to like 70 at the height of COVID. I think, obviously I think Hawke is the record. I think Hawke's record was like 77 or 80% was his record. Yes, Labor won lots of elections after 2007. Oh, it's that's you being a bit comedic. Even the Queensland election in 2009. Yeah, but like I'm talking like he didn't win any by-elections of the opposition or anything. I don't think it was like. Well, 8%. It's gone up.
For what it is. As we say, by-elections see swings against the government. That is commonplace in by-elections as voters.
You know what's so funny? Do you remember Eden Moniro? Wasn't like everyone in the media like go, oh, Morrison might win Eden Moniro, Morrison might win Eden Moniro. When it came to Labor winning Aston, I feel like there's been a lot more quiet. There's a lot more people like, oh no, there's no way Labor's going to win Aston. Or maybe that's just me being biased. Yeah, my granddad voted for the coalition in every election, but hated Andrew Peacock. Andrew Peacock's an interesting fella. Did you guys hear that he passed away, I think, a year or two ago? Like, someone commented on my video the other day. I was like, oh, I didn't realise he just passed away. Didn't seem like he was that old, actually. All right, Anthony Green's back. Let's turn the volume up.
Further into the count now, Anthony, what can you tell us?
Well, we've got 21 polling places. The positions looking the same on first preferences. Once again, we're able to project where the first preferences are going to end up. And at this stage, it's ending up with Labor and Liberal roughly equal on 40%, and the Greens on around 10%, and 2/3 of preferences are flowing to Labor. So if those first preference projections are correct, then Labor is very strongly positioned to win. Well, look at the change in vote. This hasn't changed for some time now. The first preference vote for Labor is up 7.8. The Liberals at 3.4 down. The two-party preferred swing, we've now got 8 polling places, and the swing is 6.6%. So at this stage, these figures are starting to look grim if that trend continues. We still have all those pre-polls and postals to come, but the polling places are settling into a pattern of a swing which would be big enough to cost the Liberal Party Aston. That's the trend that's set in at the moment. Whether that continues for the rest of the night, we'll have to wait and see.
It would be pretty hard to turn it around at this point. I know we're not ready to call it at all, Anthony, but to turn that around at this stage with this much of the vote counted would be pretty difficult, wouldn't it?
It's getting difficult. I mean, the question is, as I always say, you know, the two-party preferred vote varies a lot from polling place to polling place. The swing tends not to be. And we do have a lot of polling places from the north of the electorate. Is the swing different there to down in the south of the electorate? Is it different from what the swing we're going to see in the polling, in the pre-polls and postals? But at the moment, the Liberal Party would be very worried about these figures because these are not good results.
Not good is to put it mildly. Andy Green, thank you. Appreciate that. We'll keep coming back to you. We're not calling it yet, but this is...
Of course you're not David Spears.
So far for the Liberal Party than they were expecting, and indeed what Labor was expecting. The Liberals are losing so far tonight, a seat they've held for 30 years. And yes, we'll keep you updated as those further booths from the southern part of the electorate come in. That's the one hope the Liberals can cling to, that there are huge swings now back to them in some of those booths to offset what we've seen so far. But as we keep saying, that's looking less and less likely. We'll continue keeping you up to date with what's happening in Aston. Gemma Vaness, back to you for now.
Thanks, David and PK. We'll go to the day's other...
I'll switch, we'll turn it off for a bit. So, yeah, okay, 23. So we've only got, what, about 13 polling booths to come through yet, and then we're done. I've only got about 20 minutes left before I have to run off, so hopefully, didn't they got a call in the next 20 minutes? I don't know. So this is in the chats. It says, what did Peacock do after retiring in 94? I know he moved to the US. I think he retired in the US. That's why you probably don't hear much about him. Meridor is a new Labour hero. Yeah, obviously if Meridor does win this, it'll be pretty impressive. Like, what's been a bit misleading is people have been saying she's not a local, but she is technically a local. She just lives slightly outside the electorate. Like, she does her business and stuff in the electorate, but she is way more of a local than the Liberal candidate. And I think people might know that. They might realise that, sure, the Liberals have got it. The Liberals, to be honest, do you think it's a bit scummy that it feels like the Liberals have just put a diversity candidate in? Like, do people feel like Liberals have just chosen a, you know, we got a candidate, you know, a nice moderate candidate who, you know, I don't want to watch what I say because I don't want to say something rude, inappropriate. But like, I'm wondering if it feels like Liberals are just playing a diversity tactic as opposed to, you know, getting a strong local. Like, the fact that they couldn't get someone from Aston is a bit concerning, especially since Aston's a strong Liberal seat. You think the Liberal branch there would have plenty of good members to put forward. There was another diversity Liberal candidate who lived close to Aston but lost. Yeah, I think I heard about that. It's a little disingenuous, to be honest. It's just it's a little bit they didn't. Well, I've heard one concern is the fact is like there's like plenty of Liberal candidates in Aston, but they're all white men. I'm not sure if that's just me theorising. No, I'm not gonna make any claims. I'm wondering if that's one of the problems the Liberal Party's facing is they want to get more women and people of colour into the group, but they just don't have those people. They just got so few because they're all in the Labour Party and Greens these days. So we're still at 23. So obviously the big booths haven't come through yet. So we're still at 27%. I'm hoping we'll get to 50 in the next 15 because I'm going to have to obviously leave in about 15 minutes to go to my next thing. Do you think her not being a local is costing her this election? I mean, not costing it, but being a big factor. 2/3 of booths to now, and yes, 2/3 of booths to now, and we still don't have. Like, I feel more confident if that number got to 50. Oh, we got the 24th booth in. Labor's gone down a bit. Like, so we're getting booths from the south yet? Are we knowing what's Okay, they're still doing other stuff. So what's the biggest booth? Let's say. So it looks like the biggest booth is this one here, which I don't know booth that I could click on it, I guess. So Ferntree Gully Central has got a big booth. So is Listerfield. So these are obviously Listerfield's one that probably Liberals will hope it'll win because that looks like their strongest one. Don't know if Ferntree Gully North's come through yet. This looks like Labor's best one. Wish they made the circles a bit more extreme so it's a bit more obvious to see which is the bigger booth. The problem is a part of me wants to keep, like, obviously I need it to turn off, but a part of me is just worried it's not going to turn off. I'm going to jinx it, and so I'm going to go back to the Liberals like what happened in the New South Wales state election where the Labor had all these seats and they just slowly lost as the absentees came through. I think the absentees will favour the Liberal Party, but I just don't think there's going to be enough of them. That's the thing. As it currently stands, it looks like Labor's going to at least end this vote on 53%, and I just don't see the absentees and postals being strongly Liberal enough and in large enough amounts to swing the seat back. Obviously, we still don't know. Like, we'll need to know once we get all booths in. So we currently only got 11 polling booths to come. So we've got 11 left to come. And like Labor with these would be on like almost 54. They're probably higher than what we're currently seeing in the two-place swing there at the moment. Although it has dropped down, they're only at plus 8% at the moment. So I think actually we were saying it looks like Labor went at about 40%. If the Labor ends at 40%, Greens ends on 10, that's game over for the. And again, Fusion gives Labor like an extra 2% because Fusion's most likely got to support Labor over the Liberals. I think this is the biggest problem is maybe again. Oh wait, I think. Oh no, that's no, sorry. Let's actually read some comments, sorry. Australia has a weird corporatized sort of feminism which is hard to explain, but it's very superficial, disingenuous, but the media pushes it heavily and shapes its course here. I'm not sure I understand you there. My job was getting a bit tired, so I'm probably going to have to... Oh dear, stop. Soon. Is it, wait, we can leave YouTube? Yes, we can leave YouTube. Turns out I'm a real person and not just a voice on the microphone. The raw count has Labor of 58 2 preferred. Wow, that would be insane if that was true. So it looks like Labor is starting to... Their swing is starting to go down as the southern booths are coming in, but it just doesn't feel like it's going to be enough. Okay, so 26 booths have come through. So, okay, we've got 10 centres left. Will we get the last 10 centres? So, chances are one of the centres is always going to have a missed vote or something goes wrong. So, it's chances are one of these places isn't going to be counted until a bit later. I wonder how would the informal... They haven't got a swing on the informal votes, which would be quite interesting. I guess it's hard to... you should be able to count these swings. Alright, here we go.
The Aston By.
Yeah, well, there's a contest again.
Is he going to
between
call it?
Campbell and Mary Dorr for the Labor Party. Let's look at the first preference. We've got a quarter of the vote counted now. 26 polling places.
Like
Labor is still 41.4 to 35.6, 12% for the Greens. We're still projecting that the two parties will finish on about 40%. The Greens on about 10%, and with 2/3 of preferences flowing to Labor. If that trend continues, then Labor will go on to win that seat. We look at go on to win Aston. the trend is continuing to stick. That's the swing is continuing to be that, which is why we're getting this 40-40 split as our projected first preferences. We're now getting a substantial number of two candidate preferred counts in, 12 of the 36. The swing is 5.7%, which if that continues is more than strong enough to deliver Labor victory in Aston. And this is starting to look very serious for the Liberal Party because that number has been stuck there now for half an hour. There's no sign of that trend coming back, so this is starting to look serious for the Liberal Party.
Yeah, solid numbers. More to come. Anthony, thank you.
Alrighty-o. Okay, we've got 28 now. Ooh, Labor's gone back up again. They're up 9 at the moment. So I've got about 10 minutes left before I have to run off. I'm getting real angsty at the moment. ABC won't call us unless they're 1,000% sure. Like, yeah. Hope we get a good camera shot of Peter Dutton. Sorry, it's still new stuff. The media's pushing them. I have no problem with. The problem with teals, and you'll see it soon, is like when it comes to I'm referring to the teals and the fact that the media's pushing them. I have no problem with feminism, but the teals are pretty much just upper class white women, many of whom business execs. In some respects, I can understand what you're saying, because like if you look at when Labor was trying to push a lot of those more working class reforms, like tax reforms and things like that, the teals have actually been opposing them, because again, at the end of the day, they're basically just progressive liberals. Alright, hopefully we'll get one more turn with Anthony Green, and then when that ends, I'll probably call it, and and I wish you guys all a good night, and hope we have just seen history. Oh wait, I just noticed, they're calling it ALP likely. They think ALP is going to win the seat. The PT's opposed, oh yeah, that's right, that's the policy I was thinking of, it's the union bargaining deal, that's the one I remember. It's sad to see the Liberals are still hated. I mean, not Liberals, unions are hated so much. Yeah, fortunately, those last few booths are going to... Okay, 29, so we've got 7 booths left. I think those 7 booths are quite large. They should hopefully get us that 50% margin that we're looking for. Obviously, they're probably very large booths, which means they're going to have a lot of trouble counting. I wonder if they've got extra staff counting than they would in a federal election, which is helping them. How many of you guys were actually expecting this? I feel like if you looked at, I did a Twitter poll and people were not expecting this result. I voted for it. I voted for Labor to win, and I'm feeling kind of, what's the word, smug about myself a little bit at the moment, that should be careful. Like, again, although it is saying ALP likely, that usually means we're about 5 seconds away from it being called an ALP gain. Welcome, guys. Yes. Oh wait, that just went up to 53 today. Oh, 30%. Yeah. Well. Well, guys, you are seeing. So we've got 5 minutes left before I have to run off. What do you guys think? We've probably just seen history in the making. The last time this, I don't think there was anyone in Australia who was. I don't think there's anyone alive in Australia. Maybe. You would have to be 103 years old to have last seen the time when this event like this happened. You would have to be 103 years old. That's how old you would need to have been alive for this event, for this last time to have it again. Labor looks like they have gotten revenge for the 1920 Kalgoorlie by-election theft. Do you guys think Dutton's gone? If Labor actually does win 53, do you think Dutton is gone? Because to be honest, again, I'm going to sound biased again, I think that'd be a good thing. I can tell you guys that this is probably going to go in the, probably going to get a mention in the 2025 election video. Like, this is quite a major deal. This is, unless other bigger events come up, like, you can expect the Aston by-election to get a mention in the 2025 election. I don't really mention by-elections much in my videos, but I think this will be by-election notable. A bit like that Flinders by-election that got Hayden axed in 83, if you remember that one in that video. I think I mentioned I actually mentioned, I think, the Wills by-election and the Canberra by-election. I think there was 2 other big by-elections I mentioned in videos. Sormon, how do you think the referendum will go? I still don't know about the referendum, but Labor's supporting it, and to be honest, looking at these results, it's possibly likely that Labor could get support for the referendum to push it forwards. It's not so much that Dutton might step down, it's just they've got no one to replace it, but like, Dutton is showing here that he is not fit to lead. Like, Dutton is showing that he has lost their safest seat in Melbourne. Okay, how much longer until... Things can change quickly, to be honest. Yeah, well, like, it would require a booth that hasn't been counted yet to swing massively to the coalition. Like, again, I'm pretty sure at the moment, if the booths that come through now just do not swing, just give the exact same result. If the booths we get now just give the exact same result as what they did at the federal election, I think Labor still wins. Like, the booths not only need to hold the Liberals need to gain at those booths. And look, they're going backwards without Palmer United and One Nation. So One Nation and Palmer United aren't here anymore, and they are still going backwards. Alright, I think we're getting some more weather. Alright, so once the weather's done, hopefully we should get one more update, and then I'm going to have to end the stream because I've got to go. Julie Bishop comeback special. I think Julie Bishop's kind of glad to be away from the Liberal Party at the moment, but I just think the Liberal brand is quite toxic at the moment. I don't think people want to be involved with the Liberal Party. It is a sad state to see one of our major parties like this. Like, as much as I'm obviously a Labour supporter and, like, you know, yay, Liberals down, people have been putting out in Queens, I think, I can't remember which channel it was, one of the Victorian political channels was pointing out that Liberals' failure in Victoria is letting Dan Andrews get away with some pretty horrific stuff. Like, Andrews needs to be held to account, otherwise he's just going to go downhill, but there's no one holding him to account. And so, like, a weakened Liberal Party is not good, because it means the Labour Party has got no one to keep them in check. Which is what's sort of got happened in the US, where you've got a pretty weak Democratic Party that doesn't hold the Republicans to check. They get carried away in some pretty horrendous stuff. Yeah, Fergie. Fergie was the one who mentioned that. Thanks, anti-woke John. We haven't got the 31st polling booth yet, have we? No. So we've still got 6 left, which are probably 6 pretty big ones. But once we get those 6 through, we should have a good sense of where things go. Oh, so Labor has gone back down to 52, but... No, you're right, anti-woke John. That was Fergie video I was quoting. Exactly. So do... Alright. Let's just watch the last bit on the Aston By-Election, and then I'll have to end the stream.
Every Monday, Australia
great.
comes together. No matter what you do, how
Dana
much you
ABC,
work,
Dana ABC, I watch you because you don't have ads. Oh dear. Can we get past the ads? I want to watch the coverage. Coverage. Oh dear. Good one since the ads come over. Still haven't got that 31st booth yet. 31st one. I still think, like, based on these booths here, we still got to see Labor kick up a few more in the 2-body bird. Have they finished the... No, still more ads. Oh my goodness. If it goes any later, I'm not going to be able to watch the... Come on, get through the ads. Oh dear. So This is swing table. That look, just see, it's down everywhere. Okay, it's up in Roval East, but that's like the only place it's up. There's not like an average one, is there? It sucks. But yeah, you can see like it's Labor's getting 40% at. Look at how many booths Labor is getting 40% at. That is okay. Not so much all of them, but like, are we finally getting the coverage now? No, we're going to Doctor Who. Dan has called it for me.
Aston By-Election in outer
Right,
Melbourne
we're going to have to
is
call
showing
it after this.
considerable swing toward the Labor Party. The ABC is yet to project a winner in the federal seat, but the ABC's chief election analyst, Anthony Green, says Labor's candidate, Mary Doyle, is well placed to win from here. If she succeeds, it'll be the first time in more than a century that a government has won a seat from the opposition at a by-election. To state politics, and Labor has...
Alright, so unfortunately, they're not going to do any more. We're not going to see another count because I've got to go now, but thank you very much for being with us. We've likely seen history making here. It is very likely that Labor has won this seat. So congrats, guys. You've just experienced a 1 in 100-year event. So I will say goodnight to you guys, and I'll see you for my... Well, I see the Scott Morrison video coming out on Monday, and also see the Bradfield video also coming out on Monday. So until then, I will see you later.